In this video, we're going to learn how to convert between decimals and percents. So for our vocabulary, I want us to write down that percent means for each 100, because we know that per stands for like for one or for each. And then cent means 100. Because you have 100 cents in a dollar, and a century is 100 years. Cent is that Greek root for 100. Sorry, not Greek, Latin root for 100. And then I also want us to draw this lovely little diagram of our ratio that's our default whenever we're dealing with percents. And that is that the part to the whole of whichever situation we're looking at is equivalent to the percent out of 100, because that's what we're going to be using for this whole unit. Okay, so we need to learn how to turn a decimal into a percent. So we remember that 15% is equivalent to 15 out of 100, right? That's like the definition of a percent. So we're going to use that fact to be able to make these conversions. So let's start by saying that we have the decimal 0.32. Well, if we want to get it to be a percent, then first we should turn it into a fraction out of 100. So this 0.32, we know that's 32 hundredths. So let's write it that way. 32 hundredths. Well, now it looks like a percent, right? So we could just rewrite that as 32%. That was convenient. Let's see if it's always that easy. You're looking for patterns here. Let's try 0.07. Well, that's also 7 100ths. And so that would become 7%. Okay, but what if it's not in hundredths? What if we have something that's in tenths? What about 9 tenths? That's not a percent, but we could make it one. We could make it out of 100. And 9 tenths is equivalent to 90 hundredths. So that would be 90%. All right, let's try something that's bigger than hundredths, or smaller than hundredths, I guess. Let's say 0.482. 482 thousandths. 482 thousandths. How are we going to make that into a percent? Well, this one isn't quite as pretty, but I guess if we want to divide by 10, that would be like 48.2. If we make it one digit smaller on both parts, so that would be 48.2%. Okay, now we want to look back at these examples we've just done, and we want to see if there's a way that we can jump from the decimal straight to the percent, some sort of a pattern that we can notice here that would allow us to go straight there. Pause and see if you can figure it out. So hopefully you notice that the number values are always the same. It's just that they seem to have changed like where the decimal place is. So in the first one, the decimal spot moved over twice. And then we didn't include it in the answer, but it could still be there, right? A decimal at the end doesn't change anything. And on the second one, it also did that. That decimal spot moved over twice to give us just 7 point nothing. And here, it actually did the same thing. It moved over twice. And then, so now we have a new decimal here, which means we have an empty space that we could put that 0 into. And down on this last one, Maybe this one might even be the easiest to see how the decimal moved over 2 times. So what we need to do is to change a decimal into a percent, we multiply by 100, which makes sense because we're dealing with percents. They're out of 100. We multiply by 100, which means we move the decimal to the right twice. Okay, I want you to pause now and I want you to try and convert each of these decimals into a percent. Do it now. Okay, for the first one, you should have had 30%. The second one would be 2.1%. And the third one would be more than 100. It'd be 104%. Remember that each time we just need to move that decimal space 2 spots, adding in a 0 if needed. All right, so now let's see if we can reverse the process. Let's take some percents and turn them back into decimals. So if we had 79%, well, we know that's equivalent to 79 hundredths, which is the same as 0.79. So you can see that our pattern is working the same way. We can take wherever that decimal is to begin with, which if there's no decimal there, that means it's just right at the end, and we move it back, so to the left 2 times. So to convert a percent into a decimal, we're going to divide by 100, meaning move the decimal point to the left twice. Let's do a couple more. 1%, 14.6%, and 0.03%. Go ahead and pause and see if you can do them now. Is this what you got? So remember that if there's no decimal, that means it just starts off immediately to the right of the first number, or of the last number. So we move it over twice. Here we move it over twice. And then in this one, we're going to have to add 2 zeros in there because we already have one. And we have to go to the left twice. Okay, we finally made it. You've got your practice problem. What is 0.035 as a percent? Be careful. Go back and re-watch if there's anything that confused you or if you're not sure how to answer this question. We will talk about it in class tomorrow.